Hello, my name is Jeff Lazell. I am the Technical Sales Manager for X-Rite Color Management. Welcome to our webinar. So, a lot of things are changing in the photography world today, but one thing that's been a constant has always been the print. It's still the preferred method of output for photographers and for most customers. And one of the most rewarding ways to get a print is to inkjet print one yourself. But as soon as you go down that alley, you run into one big question. How can I be sure what I see on my screen is what comes out of my printer? So that is what we're going to answer today. And the answer comes in two parts: profiling and soft proofing. So to begin, let's start with profiling, and to that we look to this device, the ColorMunki Photo. So here we are in the ColorMunki Photo home screen. And you can see we have three large buttons: match my printer to my display, profile my display, and profile my printer. So the top button is going to combine these two into one seamless process. But today, let's take it step by step and start with the most important one: profile my display. So you can see here, first thing it's going to ask you is which display you want to profile if you have two attached. If you do not have two attached, then it won't ask you and it'll skip this step. So today we are going to profile our BenQ monitor. So I'm going to choose that one, and then the software is going to shift over onto that monitor. Next, it's going to ask you what type of device you're looking to profile: an LCD monitor, a laptop, or a projector. Now, these two are pretty much identical process-wise, but the projector has a different process, so we're going to go over that a little bit later. Right now, we're going to leave that selected as the LCD, and then down here it's asking us what type of profiling mode we like to be in: easy or advanced. So easy pretty much keeps you set to the recommended defaults. Most photographers will never have to shift out of that, but let's take a look at what advanced offers us. So advanced offers us the ability to choose two different ways on how to set luminance. The first one is to set it based on ambient light conditions. So selecting this means the device will actually take a reading of the room you're going to be working in and use that reading to make sure your display is set up appropriately brightness and contrast wise for the room you're working in. Or if you don't want to do that, you can go down here and set the specific luminance to a targeted value. Now it's set to 120 as a default, but you can go up or down depending on if you need to do print matching. For most of the time, you'd always go down, but again, these are specific settings that you would need to be told by either a printer or a manual to go into. And then the last thing you can change is the white point: D65, D55, or D50. And again, these would be different variables for print matching, but should only be gone into if you are specifically told to. So we're going to leave that as the default because that's the most widely accepted setting. I'm going to set it to set luminance based on the ambient light condition of the room, and we're going to hit next. Now it wants us to calibrate the device before we use it. So you rotate the dial, like indicated in the software, to the calibration position, and then click Calibrate. Now it wants you to rotate the dial again into the position to measure the ambient light of the room. So now that it's pointed straight up, you're going to place it in the room you're going to be working in. Just be sure not to have it directly in front of the monitor, because then it's going to think that monitor's light is the ambient room light. And then hit next. And again, make sure it's out of its holder bag and next to the display, and click Measure. Now it's going to give you a lux reading, and based on that measurement, what it's going to be set to. But you don't have to remember that. It's now going to be built into your profile. So then hit Next, and you're going to have to move it in the position to measure, which is going to be straight down. And then you're going to put it into its sling. Click Next. Now you're going to place the monkey over the monitor, making sure that it's sitting on the target and that the window in the sling is open. Then click Next. And the test is going to begin. So first thing it's going to do is it's going to test the contrast and brightness. So it's going to go light, it's going to go dark, and then it's going to begin looking for specific colors. Now it's telling me over here right now that the measured luminance is 86. And we want that to be closer to the 112 based on the reading we got from the ambient light meter. Just slowly adjust the brightness settings. Get it as close as you possibly can. Now, depending on your computer, you might not be able to achieve the exact number it wants, but just get it within the green. So I'm going to stay with 120 for now and hit Next. Now it's going to begin checking colors. Alright, now the process is complete. Remove the ColorMunki from the monitor. And here it's going to give us the ability to name the profile. So I like to make sure that I change the name here so it doesn't conflict with anything already existing on the software. So it's already added in underscore D65. And I'm going to hit save. Profile is complete. And then down here it asks me how often I want to be reminded to reprofile my display. Now I know that no one likes to be nagged by their computer to do anything. I sure don't. But this is actually pretty important. I recommend that you reprofile your computer every 2 weeks if it's a laptop and about once a month if it's a desktop. Now, this is going to be a little bit different for whatever equipment you're using, but in general, you shouldn't go longer than a month without calibrating. Being on a good schedule of calibration is imperative because otherwise a situation might arise where you think that you're on color and you actually aren't. Now, like I said, the ability to hold a calibration is going to differ between equipment, but in general, the max is 4 weeks. So I'm going to set it to 2 weeks because I'm currently using a laptop attached to an external display, and then I'm going to hit Next. So this is where we get our before and afters. And so we have a photo to reference as well as colors and a grayscale. So let's see. And you can see there's actually quite a difference. My display was pretty cold before. And I also had some luminance issues, as you can see in the background. There's the shadow and the highlight detail changes, as well as in the flowers. Then we're going to hit Next. And we're done profiling the monitor. Before we move on to printer profiling, let's take a moment and go back and look at how we're going to profile a projector. So, just like before, you're going to choose Profile My Display, but this time indicate that you're working with a projector. You still have the ability to shift into an advanced mode. Advanced mode gives you the ability to change white points on the projector. And the vast majority of the time, though, you're going to want to leave it in native, which is, of course, set as a default. So hit Next. Now, here, you can see the tips on how to align the ColorMunki for a good reading on a projector. First, you should measure the height of the projected image, and then you use that measurement to figure out how far away you can place the ColorMunki. So you can see here, it should be on a flat surface at a distance smaller than 1.5 times the height of the projected image. Now you want to aim it directly at the center of the image, horizontally, and rotate the disc on the ColorMunki so the optics are projected at the center of the image. So we're going to do that. Hit Next. So the first thing what the ColorMunki is going to do is it's going to sight in on the screen to make sure that it's directed completely at the middle, and then it's going to start its battery of tests, just like it did with the monitor. Okay, once the ColorMunki has finished its battery of tests, just like before with the monitor, you're going to be greeted with this screen asking you to name the profile and then save it. Then once you hit save, you're going to get this message letting you know that the profile is complete, and also an important tip. To ensure color accuracy of projector, we recommend that you build a profile every time you set up the projector. Now this is because of the nature of the device. There's a bulb obviously involved in the projector, and so dialing that in every time is important because the bulb can be in different parts of heating up, cooling down, all those sort of things. Then next, same as before, we're going to be greeted with the before and after screen. So if we take a look at it before the calibration, you can see that it was a little bit too bright and also a little bit on the cool side. So now we're back to the correct calibration where we want it to be, and we're done. And we're back at the home screen. Alright, now that we've gone over how to create profiles for your monitor and your projector, it's finally time to go into profiling your printer. So here we are back at the home screen, and this time we're going to choose Profile My Printer. Now, the first question it's going to ask is whether you want to create a new profile or optimize an existing one. So the time you would choose optimize an existing profile is when you're doing a checkup on a profile you've created, or you want to improve a profile that came with your printer. Now, I recommend once a year checking up on the profiles you've created by choosing Optimize Existing Profile. This is just a good way to keep on top of how your printer is breaking in and seeing if there's any flow issues that have developed since you made the profile. And then next, it's going to ask which printer we want to profile. So we are going to choose the Canon Pro 1 series printer we've been working with today. And next, it's time to name the paper we're going to be profiling. And today we're going to be creating a profile for Ilford Smooth Pearl. Alright, and then it's time to hit next. So here is where we're going to generate our first chart. So just like when we were profiling the monitor or the projector, there were very specific colors that flashed on the screen. We're now going to create a target chart with very specific colors that the ColorMunki is going to use to run a test on your printer for that specific paper. So I'm going to select print, and then it's going to give us 3 important things to look out for when setting up the printer. First, we have to make sure that we're setting it up for the correct paper type and resolution. These are factors that you have to carry over every time you use the profile. So if you set it up for standard resolution, you have to make sure when you're using the profile later, it's set to standard resolution as well. Then the biggest issue is you have to make sure you're turning off any automatic color management that the printer may have. And then remember, again, the third, it's just reminding you to remember the settings you did for using the profile. So we're going to hit continue, and we're in the printer dialog box. So here is where we're going to shut off the color management. So for the Canon series, obviously this is going to be different for different printer manufacturers, but this is the way you set off the color management for Canon series printers. So in the drop down, you're going to choose color matching. Then you're going to choose color sync, not Canon color matching. And then under profile, we're going to go down and we're going to choose the generic RGB profile. So I've done this before, so generic RGB profile shows up right up top. But if it doesn't for you, go down to other profiles and then search for the generic RGB profile. Alright, and then we are going to go to quality and media. Print quality is going to be high. And for media type, we are going to choose Pro Luster for the Pearl paper. So again, this is going to be different for every different type of substrate you use. You'll be able to look up what the appropriate paper setting is for the paper you have in the documentation with the paper. For instance, if you're using an Ilford glossy paper, you might choose something different than luster. But Pearl goes with luster. And so remember, later on, oh, sorry about that, my print quality reverted back to standard. Going to go to high. Later on, when I'm using this profile, I need to make sure that I choose Premium Pro Luster, and High Quality. And so now, this is where I would hit print. So, part of this process is that you need to wait for the ink to dry before you can take a reading. So there is a timer built into the software that takes about 10 minutes before we can actually do a reading. And even for a webinar about color management, that is way too boring to make you fine folks sit through. So I've actually pre-prepared the targets. So I'm not going to hit print here. I'm going to hit cancel. And I'm going to click here and say I've already printed my target. And we're ready to click next. So take the test chart, put it on a flat surface with one hand, steady the chart, and take the ColorMunki in your other hand. Put it in the position at the bottom of the strip to scan, and depress the button with your thumb and slide it along the first column. And as you can see, when the column's accepted, the software will move along with you. And now that all 5 have been accepted, it's time to hit next one more time. And the software is going to generate a second test chart. So it's actually using the information it just got from scanning in the first test chart to make a second one. And then again, like before, we're going to hit print. And you have to make sure you do the same settings as you did before. So we'll go through this one more time just so you can see. So here we are, back in the Canon 1 Pro series driver. I'm going to go to color matching, choose color sync, profile, generic RGB, and then go to quality and media, set it to Pro Luster, and the quality to high. And this time, I am going to hit print. And now that our second test chart has been printed, time to hit next. And like I said, here's the timer for the drying process. Now, normally you should wait 10 minutes to make sure you get an accurate reading, but like I said, I pre-prepared these targets for us. So I'm going to hit skip drying process and go on to next. Just like before, take the second test chart, put it down flat and brace it with one hand, and use the ColorMunki in your other hand to scan in each column. And now that all the strips on the second test chart have been accepted, hit next, and you can see it's time to save the profile. And it's been named, name of the printer, and name of the paper. So we hit save. And we're good to go. So hitting next one last time brings us to a screen where you have the ability to set the profile we just created as the default profile whenever we're printing from any of the listed programs. And what this means is if you have a specific paper that you print on a lot, you can create a custom profile for it and make sure that that is the profile that comes up automatically when you go to print. And then once you hit finish, we're back at the home screen, and we're done. So, in the beginning of the webinar, I mentioned that we were going over 2 things that were essential to making sure your prints look exactly like your screen. The first one was profiling, and I think we've pretty well covered that. And the second one was soft proofing. So, to go over that, let's go into Photoshop. Now, soft proofing is when you use a profile, either that you've created, like what we just did, you've downloaded, or you've received from a lab. And what the profile is going to tell you, it gives you a good idea of what colors your screen can create, but the printer can't, whether it be an inkjet or the type of printer a lab would use. So, first thing is we need an image to test on. Now, often, soft proofing can be sort of a subtle process. Luckily, I have interesting taste in footwear. So, I have this photo of some really brightly colored shoes. And now we're going to go up to View, Proof Setup, Custom. So, first thing we're going to do here is Device to Simulate. That's where we're going to use the profile we just created, or one you got from a lab or a manufacturer. So, scroll down here, and here we go, the Canon Pro 1 series, Ilford Smooth Pearl. And you can see already those colors shifted a little bit. Do that one more time. So, that's RGB. Down to the profile we created. Now, you want to leave black point compensation checked, but do not check these other on-screen display options of simulate paper color and black ink. The profiling in Photoshop just does not do a very good job of mimicking these. And the next thing we have is rendering intent. So, what rendering intent does, it's a way of telling the printer what you want it to do with all of the out-of-gamut colors, which again is to say colors that your screen can create that your printer can't because of either inkjet or paper choice. Now this is going to be different from printer to printer, obviously, because a printer with 12 inks can create more colors than a printer with 4. Now there's 4 choices here: perceptual, saturation, relative colorimetric, and absolute colorimetric. Now 2 of these really don't have any use in photography. Saturation is a choice for chart work, basically, where specific hues aren't important, but differences are between color to color. An absolute colorimetric is pretty much for medical printing, and that's in a situation where colors have to be exactly on, or someone is going to get an incorrect diagnosis. So that leaves us with perceptual and relative colorimetric. And you can see, just shifting between these two, you can see how much difference it makes in the file. But what are we actually doing? So, like I said, this is where you tell the printer what to do with out-of-gamut colors. So, when you choose relative colorimetric, all the out-of-gamut colors are going to be mapped back in gamut to their nearest equivalent color. Pro, all the colors that were already in gamut will not move at all. Con, if you have a lot of out-of-gamut colors, which sometimes happens in skies, you might see banding, because all the out-of-gamut colors are stacking on top of each other because they're being mapped in to the same in-gamut equivalent. So, if that happens, or simply you do not like how the photo looks when you soft-proofed it, your other choice is perceptual. And so what perceptual does is take all the colors and just sort of squeeze everyone a little bit so everybody fits in gamut. So, like I said, you can go back and forth here, and now you have true confidence that what you see on your screen is going to come out of your printer, whether it be your inkjet printer or a lab, because now you know that your screen is properly calibrated, you're working with a properly created profile, and everything you see on the screen is doing what it should be. I hope that gave you guys a good overview and a lot of information about how to set up your own digital photography workflow. And what we're going to do right now is just answer some of the questions I got while the videos were playing. So first up, we have the question that actually I get a lot, which is, can I calibrate my monitor to my printer? Which is actually a bit of a misnomer. What we're doing is we're calibrating to a standard, which is called ICC standard. ICC stands for the International Color Consortium, and they are a governing body that basically sets the standards for what color is in photography, much the same way Pantone does for graphic design. And so when you're calibrating your monitor to that standard and your printer to that standard, then they're going to match. And the added benefit of this is other places are calibrating to that standard as well. Say you want a print that's bigger than your current printer can do and you want to send out to a lab, they're going to be calibrating to ICC standards too, so then you don't lose that confidence of knowing what you see on your screen is what's going to come out of their printers. Let's see, what's next? Can the ColorMunki Photo tell me what a specific color I want to match is made up of? It actually can. You can use the spot matching function on it to read any color, and it will give you a numeric reading on what that color is made up of in RGB. Let's see. Do I need any other products to complete my calibrated workflow? Actually, we include a mini color checker with the ColorMunki Photo, and so that gives you the ability to calibrate a camera, which makes this sort of a complete system for your workflow. And if you need more information about how to use the mini color checker to calibrate a camera, just do a quick search for one of our archived webinars on the color checker passport. Let's see. Why do I need to print out 2 sets of patches? So when you're doing printer profiling, the 2 sets of patches are actually iterative, which means the first set of patches, when you scan it in, the software uses that information it gained to make the second one to fully complete the profile. So that's why you need to do it twice. Let's see. Here we go. Since using the ColorMunki to calibrate our Windows laptop, the color on the screen will post and move as we open, adjust, or close the laptop screen. Any idea what would be causing that? So what I think we're having a problem with here is something called viewing angle. On a lot of laptops, there's actually a specific angle you want the screen open to see color correctly. And I have a feeling that you're just noticing it more now that you calibrated because you're paying attention to the color. That's going to be different from laptop to laptop based on what the screen's backlit makeup is. So really, unfortunately, the answer that I have to give you is just do a quick Googling or check your manual to see what the optimum viewing angle is for your laptop, and just sort of go with that when you're judging your proofs. Let's see. I'm using a Wacom Cintiq panel as my second monitor and graphic tablet. The ColorMunki calibration doesn't seem to be working very well. Any suggestions? So I think the first thing you need to check there before we can help any further is you have to actually look up your video card's capabilities. Whenever you're looking to calibrate multiple monitors on one machine, what you need to check is if your video card has the ability to support dual LUTs, which is 2 lookup tables. I know most Macs have the ability to support that, but not all Windows machines do. So if your video card can't support it, you can't calibrate multiple monitors because we need to be able to write to 2 separate lookup tables. Let's see. Let's see. A few more coming in right now. Answered that one. Answered that one. If I can download free profiles from my manufacturer, why would I need a printer profile? So there's 2 reasons there. First, the manufacturer-made profiles are going to be very good, but have to remember that they are making those profiles sort of in an ideal world. It's one printer that they have in a controlled environment to make these profiles, and also they have to make these profiles to work with an infinite number of setups, your setups. So they tend to be a little bit more conservative. So you could actually have the ability to print more colors more accurately than these sort of stock catch-all out-of-the-can profiles are letting you. Also, when you begin to move on to other more creative paper stocks out there, the different sort of fine art papers, out there, especially if they're not made by a company that also makes a printer, you're going to find that those profiles get more and more conservative. So this is all about making sure that your setup is specific to your needs and your equipment. And that way you're going to get the best results. Let's see. How do I create a printer profile if I use SpectraView and the ColorMunki to calibrate the monitor? So this is for NEC monitors. So what you do is create the profile the same way as you would normally with the NEC SpectraView software, and then make the profiles the way I showed you. Because again, like I mentioned in the beginning of the Q&A, we're all calibrating to the same ICC standard. As long as you're getting there, you can continue with that confidence that they're going to match. Thanks for joining us.